Hey, and welcome to Cassette Take with Annmarie and Ethan. I'm Ethan,
I'm Annmarie!
and this is Cassette Take, where you can eject whenever you want, but please do not forget to rewind. And Annmarie, guess what?
What?
In the, I just conquered Italy. You want to see me do it again?
Yeah, let's actually see it this time. Can you show me?
No, because we don't show that stuff here, apparently. Welcome to our review of Napoleon, a Ridley Scott film.
Wait, I was not prepared for that.
Neither was I for this hot mess of a movie.
Oh no! Ridley, what are you doing?
Oh, he's not getting off scot-free with this one.
Not with this one.
No, so many jokes right off the bat. So yeah, we saw Napoleon.
Did we?
We saw an Englishman's take on Napoleon.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is going to be our review of Ridley Scott's Napoleon film. And just for anyone who doesn't know, Napoleon, dude from the late 1700s, early 1800s. Great figure in French history.
Short. Very short.
He was average height for the time. But no, he had some stuff go down, and it's definitely, his life is definitely worth seeing on the big screen.
Yeah.
Definitely worth seeing on a screen of any kind, to be honest, because it's so fascinating, so interesting. And my boy just wanted to, live a life in France.
Wow, you described the movie better than the movie did.
Yeah, you know what's missing from it?
No.
That I didn't mention?
What?
A love story with
Oh!
Josephine. But you wouldn't know because all they do in the movie is smack cheeks. It's going to be one of those kind of reviews, everybody. So this movie is rated R, so there will be some stuff mentioned.
Yeah.
That you might want to keep the kitties and their ears closed for a little bit. Put them in the Palace of Versailles for a moment. Don't let them talk.
Well, should we start off of if we like this movie or not? I think you can tell. This movie's a mess.
It's a literal hot mess.
Yes.
Because it's one, a mess, and two, it is very steamy, sexy, hot.
Yeah. There's like 5 sex scenes in this movie.
It's like a quarter of the movie.
Yeah. It really is.
Yeah. We are very kind of dumbfounded by this movie because, we were kind of expecting it to be one thing or the other.
I just expected. So we'll go non-spoilers for even.
It's history.
Okay,
Are we,
fine, but
are we
like.
sure we want? I think we would just want to jump into
Okay,
spoilers.
let's be honest. Not to compare movies because movies are so different and subjective and everything, but I honestly felt like I was gonna go into this movie like Oppenheimer, and it was not like Oppenheimer.
No way.
No way.
Nope.
And I think they were. I think who did this one? What? Apple. Apple.
Oh, Apple. Okay.
I think Apple was like, oh, there's an Oppenheimer movie by Christopher Nolan. We need to have something similar directed by someone famous. And then Ridley Scott's like, yeah, I haven't directed a movie in a while, so let me do it. And that's what we got. So.
Yeah, I mean, I would kind of agree with you on that, except Oppenheimer was kind of it didn't have the success that it had until well after, like, Napoleon was kind of already a thing in post or whatever.
That is true, yeah.
Yeah, otherwise I would agree with you, but I would say with us going into the movie, you and I expected not only, say, like a movie that would be on par, if not maybe a little less than Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
We were expecting, one of the two stories. A love story focused between Napoleon and Josephine, or something told by, Josephine's perspective.
Yeah.
Or just, like, something going on about, like, Napoleon's exploits and, like, his story and, like, him being a great general and all that. A flawed general, but, a general in the very end.
And we got a mess of both.
We didn't get either. It just was, like, a bunch of... The way I described it after you and I went to see this movie was, it's like Ridley Scott took a sophomore high school European history book, specifically on the Napoleonic era, put it up on a wall, and then closed his eyes, threw some darts at it, and it's like, okay, we're gonna do that, and that, and then, well, okay, Mr. Scott, what are we gonna do in between those? It's like, oh, we'll just have Joaquin Phoenix and Vanessa Kirby slap cheeks.
Yeah.
Like that's essentially Ridley Scott's Napoleon. And by the way, it does look great. I'm not gonna like completely bash this movie.
Yeah.
We do have a lot of positive to talk about.
Yeah, we talked about the music. We
yes.
talked like afterwards. We had talked about the music. We talked about the acting. We talked about a lot of it. But like initial thoughts as well. I want to say like you're a big history person, so you knew a lot about Napoleon. Me, not so much. Like I knew a little bit. Like he conquered France. Like he was a short guy. Like I knew like that stuff. I'll be honest.
Average height for the time.
Okay, average height for the time. I'll be honest. This movie doesn't do a good job of telling his story because even afterwards, talking to you, there was a couple of things you said. You're like, he was 25 during like a certain period. Conquering Italy was a huge part of it. Like, Josephine wasn't his only love, and like. After talking to you, I'm like, wow, this movie did not do a good job showing Napoleon.
Yeah, I mean, man was 24 when he became a general, and we have Joaquin Phoenix, who, by the way,
is great.
I would say he's great as an older Napoleon.
Mm-hmm.
But
he's got that charm about him.
A little bit. Yeah. I would say he could do a little better with kind of capturing the charisma that Napoleon actually had. But I think as he got older, like with the character, it worked a little more. Mm-hmm. But as the younger Napoleon, that's supposed to be a little more witty. It
not
just,
good.
Yeah, it really didn't work. You have a 49-year-old man playing a 20, double that, 24-year-old man. And by the way, he was 16 when he joined the infantry.
See, that's like, to me, that would have made such a better story.
Mm-hmm.
If you did a younger and older version of that. And yeah, it just, I think it kind of took, like, after walking out of the movie and learning that, I was like, oh wow, like, it took a lot away to me. Because to me, like, I'm 24. So knowing him, like, he conquered, like, France at 24, that would have been cool. So.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, after seeing this movie, and I hope, I'm kind of holding my breath on this because I know we have the 4-hour director's cut that is coming out on Apple TV Plus.
Though?
I'm sure it will.
Okay.
I feel like Ridley had that in there in his contract. Like, listen, I'm gonna shorten this down for you in theaters. However, we're gonna at least do my version. I mean, Ridley Scott's historically kind of notorious for having okay theatrical movies and then like having a director's cut come out and it being so much better.
Yeah.
There's a few examples, of course, the most famous being Blade Runner.
Yeah, of course.
So, I mean, it's like two completely different movies by the end of it. So, I'm thinking that maybe there's so much more in that hour. I think that...
the thing about that, though, is, like, Christopher Nolan, and I hate to keep comparing these two, but, like, they are kind of similar, Oppenheimer and Napoleon, in a way of movies, like just this historical event. Christopher Nolan got 3 hours. I don't understand why Ridley Scott got 2.5. And again, I hope this extended cut comes out and I'm like, wow, this is awesome. I do really love Ridley Scott. I love The Martian. That's like one of my favorite movies of his. And so I hope you're right that something does come out and all that. But then I go back, I'm like, well, there's so much more, like, that Ridley could have added and taken away. I'm sorry, I did not need 5 sex scenes with Vanessa Kirby. Love her, great, awesome, but, like, they conquered Italy.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think we can all agree that this movie did get across the message that Napoleon, like... Never mind, I'm gonna get in trouble for saying that.
He's not a...
He is a very
jerk.
horny man.
Yeah!
He was a very horny man. And him and Josephine have very, very on and off again relationship that was very toxic on both ends of it. But this movie really portrays it like for example, I think we talked about this right afterwards, where Napoleon's exploit, like he goes to Egypt, right,
Mm-hmm.
on his campaign in Egypt, and he gets word that Josephine is having an affair,
Yeah.
and he comes back acting like, oh, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Like when I'm the innocent man, like you are mine, and all that, and in actuality, that guy had probably like 20 mistresses in Egypt.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's like, come on, like the movie just kind of makes it seem like he's a little more innocent in that. They do show that he could be toxic here and there and act a little more childish, but he he wasn't. I don't know. They didn't really portray. They inconsistently portrayed him in a bad light, and it
I
was
think they
weird, and a good light.
Yeah, I think they portrayed both the Vanessa Kirby and or not Vanessa Kirby, Josephine, and Napoleon in a bad light. Like I didn't like either of them, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Napoleon was like, "I need an heir right now, and if you don't give me one," and Josephine came off as, "I don't love you. I want to use you for your money," basically. And so, yeah, it's just kind of interesting because like going into that movie and in the trailers and everything we saw beforehand, I was like, "Oh, this is the love story. Okay, like really interesting into it." And yeah, it just. Yeah, Ridley Scott just didn't deliver on that part for me personally.
No, I absolutely agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Josephine and Napoleon, again, they have a very crazy life together.
Yeah.
And I would say, as the movie went on, their relationship kind of was executed a little better as it went on. Specifically, the divorce room scene.
Yeah.
I thought that was very well done.
Very well acted.
But you know, with again with how Ridley portrays both of them, I really, it's like, okay, they were just constantly having sex.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay, I get that they're French, but like, come on, like
it doesn't like add anything to the story. I
No.
think that's the biggest thing. It just doesn't add anything. I'm like, okay, they're both using each other for something.
Yeah, and it's like, it kind of made Napoleon. I get he wasn't like a true advocate of women's rights, and in fact, it was kind of like a little bit of the opposite.
Yeah.
But he did have a little more, love towards Josephine, and it was a very one-way relationship at the beginning. But as it went on, Josephine and Napoleon were kind of a little more on the same page.
Yeah.
So much so, she was a little more willing to go through that divorce than Let's On. But
that's one of the good scenes, like you brought up. Like again, like I don't want to just like poo-poo all over this movie, but like there is like good parts of this movie.
Absolutely.
The crowning scene. Oh my God, Joaquin Phoenix was great in that. Like where he's like, I'm gonna crown myself, basically. The water fight. I'm sorry.
Wait. Okay, see, when we talk about Napoleon, you say the water fight, it could mean two very different things.
Not the Waterloo one, the other one.
Austerlitz.
Yeah, that one was so cool. Like, there's parts of this that I'm like, okay, I can see it. I can see it kind of shining through. But a lot of it's, like, lost in translation, I feel like.
It's lost in spectacle.
Yeah.
I think Ridley shot, again, there's nothing completely wrong with like getting a really good shot or making something look cool, but it's got to have narrative purpose, and it's got to really demonstrate the whole story that you're trying to convey here to your audience. At least like what Napoleon was, what he was doing at this moment, etc. Austerlitz, yes, it looked really cool. Like, I will not deny that. The music was great. The performances in that was great. But, like, there was no sense of scale with it. Like, there wasn't. I mean, that whole thing with the ice, that was in reality, that was a subsection of Russian troops.
Yeah.
Like, in the whole grand battle that Austerlitz was, that was just a small part of it. The whole battle itself is like called Napoleon's masterpiece because of how well put together it was and how the reactions were with the soldiers coming out of the fog. and it kind of glosses over a lot of that
Yeah.
and what came before, and it's crazy. What they give screen time completely outweighs what they should have given screen time.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that because during the movie, we've been joking about it, but
Yeah.
it literally is like in the movie, he writes to Josephine, "So I conquered Italy," and me and you both raised our hands up. And another part I think about is his relationship with the Russian emperor, where literally one scene is like them be like, "We are friends. I'm gonna marry your sister," and then maybe like 5 minutes later, he's like, "All right, so we're going to war with the Russian Empire." So I guess like, how do you feel that like, because those are big parts of Napoleon's history. How do you feel that they took those out and kind of like you can't tell a 4 hour movie. Stuff got to be cut down and all that.
Absolutely.
And Ridley Scott has talked about, hey, there's gonna be an extended edition. But like, how do you feel that cutting such big moments out, like, or just glossing over it? Because what could there have been a way that it could have not just been, so we conquered Italy last week?
I feel like the horse at Toulon that had his chest completely blown up.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
Not the horse.
Yeah. By the way, if you're an equestrian or you love horses at all, maybe not the movie for you. Just putting that out there now.
Poor horse.
But no, to answer your question, I would say that it just didn't work because in actual history, like, they were Napoleon and Alexander the First, the leader of Russia at the time, were like brothers. They casually in the movie they nonchalantly call each other brother.
Yeah.
Like once.
Yeah.
And that was really it.
Were they closer in age in real life?
I know they were both young.
Okay. Because that would have been interesting too, because the guy they casted for the Russian guy is so young.
Yeah, and they were both young, but both very opposing each other when it came to views.
Yeah.
Like the Alexander the First was a big monarch guy, like I want to maintain the monarchy and all that, and Napoleon was kind of a little more the opposite, kind of wanting to reform a lot of Europe.
Yeah.
And they had such a brotherly relationship, and at times it got a little more than that. So much so, there was actually a quote from Napoleon, I believe, that he says to Josephine, funny enough, he says it to Josephine, that if Alexander were a woman, he'd be one of his mistresses.
And Josephine's probably like, you son of a...
Like, I mean, I don't know what to say to that, but you just know that they were close.
And that's not portrayed at all.
No,
like,
it's
in the
not.
Movie.
They have maybe 1 or 2 scenes together.
Yeah.
And then that's about it.
Yeah. Because that's the thing, like, I get it. You can't tell his whole, like, life. Like, that's gonna be 4 hours and all that. But, like, to take those important scenes out, I feel like you could have switched some stuff around, or...
Or you could, do the responsible thing and pull a Steven Spielberg / Stanley Kubrick and do, like, an 8-part miniseries that's gonna be on Max.
You know what?
Or HBO.
I heard that they're like, Napoleon would have been a great HBO Max series. And I'm like... After learning more, I'm like, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, well, one, with Max, like, or HBO, either way.
It's just called Max.
Well, I mean, because I know it's airing on HBO and it's going to be put on Max, but yeah, anyway.
It's HBO Max.
So, they do deliver on quality.
Yeah,
like, you think of Last of Us, you think of Succession, Winning Time even though it got canceled, boo. You got so many good quality shows on that platform. And then you pair it up with Steven Spielberg, and then he's going off of what Kubrick was originally intending. It's going off of Stanley Kubrick's original script that he had in mind. And it's going to be, it was like an 8-part miniseries, I think. But I'm hyped for that.
Yeah.
The Napoleonic era, it's
interesting.
It is such a long period of time. Like, not too long in the grand scheme of things, but it's such a captivating period of time in history that kind of is filled with like so much propaganda to the point that some people don't know what's real and what's not. So to have Ridley Scott put out a movie that kind of feels like it's a propaganda piece from an Englishman,
Yeah.
like a disgruntled Englishman that's 2 centuries too late. Like, I'm sorry, it just does not, go over well. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's just the disappointing part about it. It's just because we went into this movie expecting one thing and then came out. And unfortunately, like, again, like, you can't just blame Ridley, Joaquin Phoenix, Vanessa Kirby. Like, you can't blame everyone, but I do put this on Ridley. I think there's, as a director who has directed Blade Runner, you brought up, The Martian, like
Gladiator,
all this good stuff, it makes me be like, what happened?
And you know what? Gladiator is a really good example of a movie that he did that wasn't completely historically accurate, but was done so well that you didn't really regard that. It was like, wow, this is such a captivating story. I can get behind these characters. I can get behind this storyline. I can get behind the setting, the scale, the scope of this movie. I feel like I'm in Rome. And this, you were kind of like, you hear Ridley Scott is doing a Napoleon movie.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my gosh, is this going to give me that same feeling Gladiator gave me? No, it doesn't.
No.
It doesn't. It just takes too many, ironically, it takes too many liberties during this movie, and it's not better for it. It just feels like it's for the sake of brevity.
Yeah. I'm gonna quickly pull up the box office, but to me, I'm like, oh, who's he gonna blame now? Because he blamed the oh my goodness, I'm missing it. He blamed like the trailers on The Last Duel and having that low. So I'm like, who is he gonna blame now?
Well, personally, when I read that article, I'm like, he should be blaming the marketing team.
Yes,
but I think he was going after the young generation. Like, oh, you guys are watching things on your phones and like it's not the same, and I'm like, oh man, you need to get out more, buddy. But yeah, no, I would blame the fall of The Last Duel on bad marketing.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you see these two dudes, it's like, hey, you screw over my wife, like, maybe I did. What about it? Okay, we should duel to the death. Dang. And it takes place in the past. And that's all it really seemed. But, I haven't seen the movie, but from what I've heard from people that liked it, they said, oh no, it's so much more than that. And that the marketing and trailers.
I've seen the movie, and I did not like it. But
so I can't really speak too much on it, except for how bad the marketing was. But other than that, Ridley Scott has a lot of good examples of stuff he's done in the past.
He can do great stuff. He really can. I pulled up Napoleon's box office, by the way. I'm a big box office person. I just like to know. It's at $78 million, which is not awful. I don't know.
What was the budget for it?
Yeah, that was my other thing that I was gonna pull up, because as we know, you gotta make double the budget basically. So
yeah. So I'm curious to see. Because I heard it was doing pretty well at the box office when it first came out. So, what are we looking at? Your face is kind of...
Yeah,
What are we looking at? Because, they use a lot of practical effects in this movie. And a lot of extras and a lot of, like... rather than CGIing people, they're actually there. They feels like soldiers. And that's something I will give Ridley Scott, while you're looking that up. That's something I will give Ridley Scott quite a bit of the benefit of the doubt for. He makes things feel a little more real with this like scale, even if it's not done properly with scale. He will still make it feel like, oh, there's a lot of people here, there's a lot of people doing this, that. Did he do a great job with that in this movie? 50-50, with certain battles, yes, but like in the grand scheme of what Napoleon was doing, you didn't really get a sense of that. So it's just a very like hit or miss in regards to scale. Yeah. So did you have it pulled up?
I do. So I got an updated box office. It's at $86 million, so a little bit more. The budget ranges between $130 and $200 million. So this is, unfortunately, the way it's tracking doesn't look like it's going to even break even, which is unfortunate. You know, you never want a movie to fail and all that. And that goes into more of the question of the industry in general and, like, how much should you spend on movies and all that. But yeah, it's disappointing to see that.
Question: what are your thoughts on the Mel Gibson movie The Patriot?
I like it.
Okay. Because that is definitely a movie I would compare to this.
That's interesting.
Where it is a movie that is absolutely historically filled with inaccuracies, but it's executed, you know, pretty darn well for the most part. But at the same time, it really feels like a propaganda piece that came like 2 centuries too late. Yeah. And because I mean, The Patriot makes it seem like the Brits in that movie were like true evil villains, even though at the end of the day they were kind of like just an army going after people that just weren't paying their taxes. But I mean,
that's so interesting that you're comparing it to that, because now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, oh, I like that movie, but I don't like Napoleon.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is with the what I will give The Patriot over Napoleon is that there's a genuinely good, consistent narrative in it. You know, not the narrative of the message, but the narrative of the characters, the storyline.
Yeah.
It was there. It made me feel like, oh, wow, I can get behind these characters. Was it historically accurate all the way through? No. Absolutely not. But it was definitely something that I could get a little more behind. Yeah. In fact, I went on my way to buy that movie on Blu-ray because, you know, I just remember watching it when I was younger. I'm like, wow, this is even though I'm a big history fan, I typically like things to be a little more accurate with their history. I really like the shots in this movie. I like the acting. I like so many elements of this movie and the storyline and the characters that, yeah, I could get behind it and I could enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so that's Napoleon for you.
That's Napoleon.
He, you know, and this movie makes him seem like such a baby.
Oh.
Which you were bringing up constantly.
He's just a little whiny little baby.
He's just a baby, Annmarie.
He's just a... Well, no, it's Joaquin Phoenix. He's 49, so he's not just a baby. He's such a whiny little
Make
guy.
Make up your mind, movie.
I know. You know, I just really... It's unfortunate, you know, and... you know, after the last duel, I'm like, I really want Ridley Scott to come back and make something epic and all that. And I feel like his heart was just not in it. Like, again, like Christopher Nolan, you can tell he was like, I love Oppenheimer. I'm so excited to direct this. This is going to be amazing. This is going to be so different. And I don't think Napoleon was the right person for Ridley Scott to do a movie on.
I agree. Yeah. I mean, at least with wherever his mindset was at now. I mean, can you imagine if he was back to his Gladiator days and he made this movie?
So cool.
I feel like it would be so much different. But who knows? That could be in the 4-hour cut.
Yes.
That could be in the 4-hour cut.
Maybe we'll do a redo podcast where we like, actually, guys.
This movie's actually pretty good.
This movie's pretty good, actually.
Yeah, I knew it the whole time.
No. Well, you know what the funniest part was? You brought up Ridley Scott and you're like, he has his own Napoleon complex. I'm like, that's why he did this movie.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. He is definitely someone that feels like a very jaded old man, like the get off my film set kind of guy.
But he makes such good movies.
We might have to put that in the past tense, though.
Oh no.
Like
we'll see with the 4-hour cut. Again, like, you know, this could be.
But again, this was what he approved and released in theaters.
Yeah, but Ridley Scott's also one of the directors. We'll have to do a whole nother thing about Director's Cut and how we both feel about it. But he's one of the directors that has always been like, my Director's Cut is so much better. And I'm like, dude, just put out a movie.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a little more on the studio's end. But I mean, you can't really blame the studios too much, except up to this point. Because I would argue after the success of Oppenheimer and Across the Spider-Verse, which was a 2.5-hour movie and was animated and all that, like, and these longer movies are coming out and like getting these
And people
box
will
office
sit
numbers.
in it.
Yeah.
The Batman, that's a great example. That was 3 hours, and people sat, and that did really well too.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't see why you really need a short movie. People go to a movie theater for the most part to be immersed and get lost in these movies, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there are the occasional people that casually go, you know, with their friends, etc. But why are you casually going to a movie called Napoleon?
Yeah.
You're gonna make a historical epic. Go all out.
The other argument of that too is, well, if you make it shorter runtime, more theaters can play it, which I would love. This is my output to the world. I would love someone to do a study if that actually makes a difference, because the more I think about it, I'm like, does it really make a difference if you can have like, instead of 5 Napoleons play in one day, having 7? Like, does that really make a difference?
I would say no,
Like,
because
yeah.
those theaters aren't packed.
Yeah.
If it were like something like Avengers
Yes.
Endgame or Infinity War, or like something that's been building to something, and you know you're basically expecting a good quality product.
Mm-hmm.
And I could argue that, you know, Ridley Scott's Napoleon.
This could have been big.
Yeah, a lot of people were expecting it.
Yeah.
There were a lot more people in our theater than I expected, which, you know, there weren't much to begin with, but there were a lot more than I thought there was going to be for, when did we see it? On a Tuesday night?
Yeah.
Yeah. It just did not feel like, I don't know, people wanted to see a good movie, and they didn't really get it. You know, they didn't get what they wanted. And I feel like that's just...
It doesn't really have a rewatch factor
exactly.
either. Yeah.
And a lot of movies that do have a rewatchability factor, you know, they spread by word of mouth, and they not only get new people in there, but they get the people that want to see it again.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Box office is such a wonderful, interesting mystery.
Yeah.
That
how do you crack it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That Hollywood and just the movie industry at large is just trying to figure out constantly.
Yeah.
So, but in the case of Napoleon, I just don't think it has the cannonballs to really, you know, get because artillery. Artillery. It's an artillery joke. It's artillery. Anyway.
No.
Yeah, that's
Napoleon.
That's Napoleon for you. Ridley Scott's Napoleon. You know what? I think we've been talking so much about the negative. We should finish on just the niceties of the movie.
Vanessa Kirby, Joaquin Phoenix, great. They did what they could. That's my 2 good things.
Yeah, I would say Vanessa Kirby more so than Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah, she does very well.
Yeah, Joaquin Phoenix kind of seemed very inconsistent with the character.
Yeah.
And who could blame him? Apparently that was the case, where he went up to Ridley and was like, I have no idea what I'm doing.
Oh, no.
So,
I didn't know that.
yeah, that was like a week or 2 before they were filming. But, yeah, there's a lot going against this. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going on the negative side.
Yeah, one positive thing about Napoleon.
So, the score. The score
yes.
was wonderful.
Yes.
Who did that again? I think it was...
we looked it up the other day.
I could find it. I was listening to it the other day.
It's a great score.
On the Spoofy, the Spotify.
Top artist, Napoleon.
Yeah, he's my top artist in my Spotify Wrapped Napoleon. Wait, I know.
We know.
Yeah. So.
Also, I know Ethan's looking this up, but Marvel, you have your Sue Storm, can cast Vanessa Kirby, and I will be happy.
Martin Phipps.
Okay.
Martin Phipps. I think he does Crown as well. The Crown.
Yes, we looked at that. Yeah.
So, yeah, great job, Martin. Like, I think your score was excellent.
Yeah.
The soundtrack, I felt was a little weird because there were some a little more modern French songs that were tossed in there during the Revolution era. Then they just kind of felt a little out of place in the grand scheme of the movie, especially with the inconsistent tone that they were going for. So, you know, gosh, this really does bring the movie in a nutshell, because we are constantly trying to bring up something good, and then it's shot again in the cannonballs. Like, I just can't. I can't talk positively about this movie without finishing my sentence with something negative,
Yeah.
which is unfortunate.
It's unfortunate.
It's shot beautifully.
Yeah. Oh, Ridley, I hope you get back on your feet.
Yeah.
I'm hoping for you.
We definitely want the best for our boy Ridley Scott.
Yeah.
I love Alien. I love me some
Blade Runner.
some Blade Runners, Director's Cut, some what was it? Gladiator.
The Martian, I really do.
Yeah,
love
The
that
Martian.
one.
You know, this man,
He'll get back to it.
he can get back to
Yeah,
it.
he'll get back.
We'll
We're praying
we'll
for
see.
you.
That's what they want to hear. Nothing says confidence like we're praying for you. But on that note, yeah, did you guys see Napoleon? We did. We didn't see the conquest of Italy, but whatever.
Still last week I captured it.
Yeah, it felt like an Instagram post. Like just
Selfie!
casually. he
Captured
was like
Italy!
trying to like fit in his hat, like big hat in the frame. So maybe it's because I'm in portrait mode. But anyway, so as Annmarie's dying of laughter here, I've been Ethan.
I'm Annmarie.
She's Annmarie. Thank you for listening to Cassette Take. We hope you haven't ejected earlier, but you know, if you haven't, please just don't forget to rewind. This has been Cassette Take, and yeah, let us know your thoughts on Napoleon and what you thought about it. Maybe you liked it, maybe you didn't. Either way, have a great night, and adieu.